There you go.
Sweet.
Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. Sounds pretty good. You can hear everything okay up there on your end?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Good. Um, you ready to go right off the rip, or you need to do anything, or
No, I'm good.
okay? Is there anything I always ask? Is there anything you don't want to talk about?
Uh, no, not really. Not that
Okay.
I can think of.
I mean, I'm not gonna get crazy, and I say that every time, unless you really want to.
I
Uh,
don't care.
yeah. So I imagine that there's probably people somewhere, sometime that are like, listen, man. I don't want to talk politics. I don't want to talk baiting bans. Like, I don't know. Who knows, man? I always got to ask.
Yeah, I don't care. I mean, if it's something that I don't want to talk about, I guess I'll just avoid it, or I can't really even think of anything I wouldn't want to talk about. But
You could just say I plead the fifth. We'll move
yeah,
on.
sure.
Perfect. Let me just double check. It looks to me like everything's recording just fine. Cool. All right. Well, I don't have like a fancy intro that I do like with you here. Um, so we'll just kind of get into it. I don't really know you very well. I just kind of follow you, and I follow lots of other people on Instagram, which I think when I started doing this, I just was like looking for people who were putting out content that like struck me as intriguing, and so you
Mhm.
did that, and you continue to do that, and I thank you for that. But for those people who may not know you, take some time and introduce yourself.
All right. Well, my name's Tony. I'm from like the eastern side of Wisconsin near Green Bay. Grew up hunting kind of like big woods, north woods of Wisconsin. Um, and I always loved like bow hunting and fishing and all that stuff. And then after high school, then I went into the Marine Corps, so I had like a little bit of a break from that. Um, and then when I got out, I really got back into it again, and I had a lease with a few buddies, so I was hunting mostly just private, and that was probably like 3 years of that, and then the guy ended up selling that place, and then I got back into hunting public land. A little bit of a, hopping back into it. Um, Always like a learning curve, and just got crazy about it, and like I didn't wasn't really interested in like going back to hunting any type of private or whatever. I just love it so much, like the it's almost like the competitive aspect of it too, where and like I've just met so many awesome guys hunting different pieces of public, and I've been to a few different states, um and you can just if you have the time and put in the effort and stuff. I know a lot of people don't have that kind of time, but you can find. I mean, you have so much ground to if you're looking to find like a real big deer or a couple big deer or whatever. So I like that part about it too, where you're not just like handcuffed to you spend a bunch of money and you know time and stuff on a lease or your property or whatever, and then it's really hard to ever get away from it because you feel like you have to, you know, hunt there.
That is a very interesting topic that I have not really spent a lot of time on. So I want to circle back to that. But because I have some comments in my notes here to talk about leases and stuff. But you seem to be a blue collar man.
Yeah, I it's funny too because I went to when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to Milwaukee School of Engineering and spent 5 years there. And but in the summers, I would do sewer and water work with some guys that I went to high school with and grew up next to. And then when I got when I finished school, I just like kept. I went to a different company, but I just kept doing sewer and water, and I just loved I don't know, being outside and, working with like a small group of guys, and it's like hard, gritty work. And now, I mean, my body's getting just banged up, feel some days are rough, and I'm like, what am I doing? But so yeah, out there, I mean, it's been hotter than hell the last couple weeks, it seems like. So I am so ready for summer to be over with.
I imagine the rain that is pouring down outside my house right now in southern Michigan is recently passed over you over there.
It hit like the whole stayed. We just got like a tiny bit of that on the north part of that, but it pretty much missed us completely in Green
Whoa.
Bay.
I'll be
So
damned. Sometimes
yeah,
I forget how far Green Bay is up there. I had one construction project in Green Bay a couple years ago. I forgot how, because I would drive through Chicago and up, how far up there it really was. But that's one interaction that you and I did have on Instagram was we were complaining about our knees. You were creeping in on I believe 35 years old, and
yeah,
you were talking about your knees getting bad on you
yeah. I got some bum
fast.
knees. I got a bad back, but I don't know. Some days I feel great, and some days I don't. So
Did you play sports growing up?
yeah, I played football and baseball, and I also was in powerlifting. I broke my shoulder my freshman year of high school, so then I like got into weightlifting, and then I got roped into being like on the powerlifting team. So I did that too. So, but yeah,
Do you ever think about what your life would be like if you would, not that there's anything wrong with engineering, and I know you can use an engineering degree or whatever in lots of different facets out in blue collar world. Like, do you ever think about what your life would be like if you sat at a desk every day?
yeah, I think about it all the time. I'm like, man, I honestly don't know if I could do it. Like, if I could, I could do a job where like like some of our project managers and stuff like that. They're in the office, maybe half of the week, and then they're out there doing stuff like with us, and so that would be all right. But I don't know if I could. I would lose my mind in like an office like cubicle setting.
Oh my god,
Be brutal.
dude!
I
I
guess
work.
if that's all you knew,
Yeah,
maybe it's different. But
but how would that like? It couldn't even parlay into what you love to do in the woods. Like you
yeah,
need from what I gather, you need to stretch your legs. It looks like.
yeah, I. That's why I absolutely love that. Like I could work in the shop in like the wintertime. Some winters will work pretty late into the year, but I usually will take, I'll have like January and February and sometimes a little into March off. So I just love that time of year where I can just be out walking. Like I go from, you know, end of hunting season, and then it's like I'll typically trap coyotes for, a few weeks or maybe even a month, and then that like rolls right into antlers falling off. So I just love being out there and walking. Everyone hates wintertime. I just absolutely love it.
Dude, I just had that conversation. So my mother-in-law is staying with us right now. She had hip replacement surgery, and we were lamenting about the brutal humidity and heat, and how we're absolutely ready for fall and winter, and we just how there are so many people who think of winter as being stuck at home. You can't do anything. It's too cold, and I don't get it, man. Like, put on a
Yeah.
couple fucking layers and go outside.
I know. I say the same thing all the time. I mean, there are some things that are like harder, and I understand. Like, if you have like a bunch of kids that you have to, if they want to do anything outside, you have to get them all bundled up and all that. Like, that's a hassle, and um, some things are harder, especially if you're like doing any work outside. Things are harder, but for the most part, I mean, it's so avoidable. Like in the summertime, there's no way around it. Like,
Can't escape it, man.
yeah,
How did you get into trapping? I've noticed, first of all, there's a tremendous correlation, and I'm not saying anything fucking groundbreaking here. There's a tremendous correlation between people who trap and their ability to get on big deer. How did you get into
yeah.
trapping?
I don't really have a good answer for that. I don't really know. I think um I was I always followed what is there the management advantage on YouTube. I always loved because I was like real big into like doing switchgrass and like habitat stuff like when I had that lease, and that's like what their YouTube channel focused on. But I think the guy's name is Casey. He's like the guy who he's like the he started the channel, and he does predator control like all over the place, and he was I always loved watching their trapping videos, and I'm like, well, I'll just gonna, there's tons of coyotes in the marsh where I was hunting. I'm like, I'll try it. I'll just buy like a dozen traps, and trapping in the winter is like in the cold and snow and stuff is really hard. Most people that trap hang up their traps at that time of the year.
Hmm.
But so I tried it and I just couldn't I could not freaking catch those coyotes. It drove me crazy. And then I caught one on the very last day of trapping my first year and I was like just so hooked on it because they're just so deer are like people always say deer are so smart, which I mean, I kind of take that with like a grain of salt. Like their like survival instincts and everything are just amazing. And coyotes, though, I think like can actually like reason, and they're so smart. They'll like mess with you, and like it's
That's
a
interesting.
game. It's like a game to them, and they're hard to catch. So I've been doing it now for probably maybe six or probably 7 years, something like that.
And what are you doing with the coyotes when you catch them? Like, what is the next step? Because I legitimately don't know.
Well, usually I when I first started actually like catching a good amount of them, like I would just with the 22, just like either well, I used to just shoot them like right between the eyes, and a lot of times you'd shoot them and they'd just if you're like off by like an inch or whatever, they'll just like stand there and look at you, and I'd feel terrible, and
Oh,
you have
yeah,
to shoot them like a few times. There's blood all over the place, and it's a mess, and plus you're not going to catch one in that area again,
right.
and then so I'm like there's got to be like better way. And then I saw guys talking about it's called a death ray. It's basically it's like a caulk gun, and then there's like a stainless like a 3 foot stainless rod on the end of it with a snare, like a snare cable on
Mm,
the end, and you just loop it over them over their
mm.
neck, and they literally pass out in like 5 seconds, and they're just they're dreaming it. they
Wow.
don't they don't feel a thing, and it's like there's no like a lot of times I'm checking traps at night or I'm like near people's like houses or whatever, and you just kind of want to be under the radar when you're trapping because you know
Sure.
and so it's super nice, and I just it doesn't it's like I don't like shooting them to begin with, but so that's what I do.
Do you not like shooting them because of the mess or because of how close to like domesticated dogs they are
Yeah,
when you're that close to them?
I've like this sounds so goofy, but like the more I've trapped coyotes and the more like I've learned about them and all that stuff, like I've grown to like them like so much just
Hmm.
because they're such a cool animal. And I've like no so many people just like hate them so much, and I don't feel that way at all, but I do. They definitely have to be managed. Some areas that you get in are just so out of control, but it bothered me when they like a lot of the older coyotes that have been around the block. I mean, they've seen a lot of other. When you catch one, you'll have a lot of coyotes come and like check everything out, and they once they are educated, they're like they understand exactly. They will scope everything out.
Hmm.
So when you catch one of those like older coyotes, and you'll walk up to them, and they won't even they're laying there, and they already know like they made a mistake, and they will
Wow.
not like look at you in the eye, or they won't even look at you when you walk up to them. It's like, man, I wish you would growl and be mad at me because now I feel bad. Like
Wow.
he already knows what's coming. So
I've never heard anybody talk about that. I've heard people talk about, like how you maybe get to that point where you don't hate them. Okay, I understand
Mhm.
that. I've never heard anybody talk about how cunning they are and how they maybe know exactly what's next. That's really interesting. I can see how that could be hard to maybe dispatch one uh,
Yeah,
at that point.
I have let a couple go, which
Really?
that makes people mad too. Like, um, I think I've maybe let 3 or 4 go. Like I had a goal one year when I like just started to like learn how to catch them, and I'm like, well, if I have like a few days left, if I catch 10 in these few days, I'll let the number 11 go. And like sure enough, I did, and it's a lot of those coyotes you can tell right away, like if you can they'll just let you grab them, or what, you can just grab right on them. They're not going to bite you or anything. And so it was in a cable restraint, which is like a snare with like a relaxing lock. So it's basically like a collar
Hmm.
on the coyote, and I just took it off it, and it ran off and ran probably like 300 yards, and then it's turned around and sat down on the ground and looked back at me, and I was like, that coyote is just so shocked, like what just happened. It was pretty cool, but
Yeah.
you know,
Um, so when you are not trapping, or when trapping is over, you find more gigantic sheds and deadheads than I have ever seen anybody find in my entire life.
yeah, I've been on a roll as of late, but
Well, what the fuck, man? How do you do that?
I guess it's just being in areas that there are a lot of big deer to begin with, and it's really people are always asking me like tips and stuff. I'm like, I might be like a above average shed hunter, but I mean, the more you do it, the easier they are to find, I guess, and just knowing like where deer are wintering and stuff. But it really, what it comes down to is like miles. Like people are like, "Oh man, I only found, 15 this year, but I'm like, well, how much did you walk?" It's like, "Oh, I put on like 150 miles." I'm like, "That's right up. That's average. That's exactly where I'm at too." Like, I'll put on, 1,200 miles or whatever, so I find a
Oh,
lot. Or around maybe some years less. This year I was probably over that, but so I'm doing a lot of walking, really.
yeah.
That's it.
I mean, you make a fair point. I mean, my question was a little bit exaggerated. Like, how do you do it? But like, if there's no big fucking deer where you're shed hunting, you're not gonna find big antlers. Like, I get
Yeah.
that. So you find yourself in a target rich environment. It is very entertaining to watch. Do you ever have years where you're like, I'm a month early. I could start a month early, or I started a month late, and you feel like
Yeah.
you're behind?
Yeah, there is a lot of strategy and stuff with that, like when it comes to public land and knowing like when stuff is gonna get walked and like when to push the limit and when not to, like and I like running trail cameras. That's like one of the biggest things is if you can. A lot of times I take cameras down like during gun hunting and stuff like that, and then I end up not putting some back up. But if you can have cameras in spots where like sometimes there's like a place just loaded with does or maybe a couple little bucks, and there's so much deer sign like in the snow and stuff. But maybe there's no big bucks there. Like if you have cameras out and like when a few of those start dropping, they're so much easier to find, and just like knowing what's going to get hit the hardest and stuff like that. So
Yeah. And have you what got you into shed hunting? Was it just your desire to be in the woods as much as possible?
uh, probably, I guess I've been in the woods like my entire life, and I've never found a shed antler until I actually went out and started looking for them, which is so strange. And even like to this day, like it's so rare for me to find a shed when I'm not looking for sheds.
Yeah.
Um, so when I got that lease is when the first time I ever went shed hunting, and and then I just started, I just got crazy about it, and especially like when now I hunted Iowa this past year, and there's just so many cool places, and like I just love looking at new properties, even like some awesome properties that I know are great, but I've spent like a lot of time there and I know it so well. Like I just would rather go somewhere new because you just never know what you might stumble on.
Right. And now that you've kind of developed this amazing skill of finding tremendous sheds, like, does it help you sort of put a plan together on deer that you want to hunt the next year? Or do you not really use it for that?
Sometimes it does help, especially if you're gonna, um, in the when it comes to like hunting in the late season where maybe that deer might be at. But it helps. Like when I was scouting Iowa in the winter and spring of this past year or 2 years ago. Like I had no, I hadn't run cameras there. I know, like I'm just seeing the sign and scouting, and it helps it. Like if you do find like a really big antler, and then I mean that's a there was a big deer there. Like maybe he'll be there in the fall, maybe he won't, but that at least it's just something.
Sure.
But yeah, it has helped me a few places like in Wisconsin where I found a really big shed that I was like about to write that property off. I didn't, I wasn't crazy about it, and you can only hunt so many places. And then actually, I have this shed laying right here. One of the biggest antlers I've ever. This thing is absolutely
Holy shit.
crazy big.
That's
I
such.
mean, if you see this thing up in person, it's just crazy.
Have you ever put a tape on that?
Yeah, I think it was 83
Yeah.
83 and some change or something like that. He would have been like a 180 something probably.
Yeah.
And then I had a lot of pictures of him in that following year. He looked pretty much the same as that, but um I would have I probably never would have went back to that property.
Hmm.
There was a big sign there, not tons of it. Um, you know, but I found I found that antler. I was just right when I got there. I literally had a spot pinned that I wanted to look at. It's just a little bit of south facing stuff, and I had just a little bit of time. I went right to my pin, and that antler was like right there, and I was like, "Oh, I couldn't believe it."
I don't know if you are, maybe you're not a spiritual kind of person. Maybe it's not even spiritual in the sense of like God or whatever, but the universe speaking to you. Do you look at things like that as being like, I was supposed to find this antler? You ever think about that kind of shit?
Yeah, yeah, I do sometimes. I mean, I didn't feel that way with that antler, but um, yes, I think that a lot of times, usually it's with like bad things, like if I miss or like
Yeah,
something,
that's
I'm
fair.
like maybe that was probably, and then something like good comes because of that, then that makes me feel that way. But um, I just and that property gets hit so hard, and it was just like in a spot that the antler was laying real weird where the pedicle was the only thing like sticking straight up, and that's what I saw. But still, like it was in an area where people are walking right by all the time. Maybe he dropped his antler real late or something, but that I found that in like late April or
Wow.
like mid-April or something like that. It's probably one of the last times I
Yeah.
was out shed hunting, and I'm like, how is that even possible that this is laying here? That's crazy.
That is wild. But I think what I was really looking to ask you was when you do you ever collect those sheds to like create a storyline for deer that you're chasing? Because I know
Yeah.
that there are guys who, they'll take, just for example, they'll take the grip and grin, and there's like 2 or 3 years of sheds with a deer like that. Is that something that interests you? Like, do you do that at all, or not really?
Yeah, I love that with it's so cool seeing when you find like the same side of an antler or like better yet like a match set of the same
Yeah.
buck and like just it's hard to explain I guess when you have them like just sitting there and you can like they look exactly the same and they're just you can just see just the little bit of antler you put on from one. I just think that's so cool, and I have a lot of those where sometimes it takes me a little while to realize that.
Mm,
um like in the I don't hunt in the marsh anymore, but I will shed hunt there every once in a while, and the sheds like in the marsh will stay there and a lot of times not get chewed on, or they just maybe get bleached out, or if they fall in some crap out there.
yeah.
And so you can find antlers from like a few years back or whatever, and a lot of times I'm like, man, I can't believe um I found this deer's old antler. Or it happened to me in Iowa too this year. Like I was just looking back through some trail camera pictures from this past year, and then I'm like, it just like occurred to me. I'm like, oh my god, I have that deer's. Or I was looking at the first time I was like scouting in Iowa. I found an antler. It was a nice antler, and his brow was busted off. And then I found a real big antler this spring when I was out there. And then I was looking through trail camera pictures. I'm like, oh my god, I actually dug it out. Then I'm like, because it was almost the exact same spot. And it never occurred to me like that was the
Hmm.
same deer's antler. And I'm like, man, it just sucks now that I have like some history with this deer. I have like a few of his antlers. Like I would love to see what he's gonna look like. And maybe if I get time, I would like to maybe stick a camera somewhere out like in Iowa and just pick it up at the end of the year or in the spring or something. But I probably won't really get around to that. So.
Yeah. Are you planning to do any out of state hunts this year?
Yeah. So I really wanted to go out and hunt like Labor Day weekend, right? Like that first week of September, and there's not a lot of places that are open. I know North Dakota, and I thought Kentucky was open, and that was it has been my plan for like the last couple months, and I've been scouring Onyx. I have so many pins in Kentucky, and then I just realized that I never actually like looked at the date. Sometimes they have like a weird time, like where it'll start at noon or whatever.
Oh
And
yeah.
so I looked that up, and I'm like, oh, it doesn't even start until the freaking 6th or something. I'm like, well, that sucks. I guess I'm gonna go to North Dakota. So
So that's the plan, North Dakota.
yeah, there's a chance I might not um get out there or whatever if the weather is absolutely terrible, or I don't know. But yeah, as of now, I'm kind of thinking that's what I'm gonna do. Maybe I'll take like that Tuesday off too, so I have a little bit more time to hunt. But
When does Wisconsin open?
it's usually the I think this year's the 13th. It's always like the second Saturday in September, I
Oh,
think.
okay. Are you an early season guy? Like, do you like that part of right off the bat getting after it?
I do, just because I've been missing it so bad, but I'm not crazy about early season. It is a great time to, especially in like Wisconsin, where we open like 2 weeks before pretty much
Yeah.
most states. It's a really good time to kill a big buck because there's a huge change, in their everything about that buck from mid-September to October 1st. But it's still like so summery feeling, and um but yeah, I do like getting back in a tree and um, just being out there. But hopefully, I can. I don't know. I just love hunting in the fall so much that it might kind of eat me up a little bit if I would go out of state somewhere, but I'd be like, man, I wish I could be hunting. I wish I had my bow tag,
Yeah.
in Wisconsin, and so it ain't the end of the world if I don't get one killed early.
So when you hunt in Wisconsin, I know you said you kind of started when you were way up north in the big woods, and I don't know where you hunt. You hunted in some marsh areas. Um, do you look at that early season as being favorable to you as a hunter in a particular area? Like, would you rather go hunt the big woods up north, the marshes for any particular reason? Because I've never hunted a marsh. Or would you rather kind of go to ag country right off the bat in that early season?
Well, I think it's probably easiest in egg country, but um, big woods early season, that could be really hard because the food sort like the white oaks are just starting to drop pretty hard at that time. And I mean, it's like if you're not running cameras or whatever, it could be real hard because the movement is short. They're not going long distances, or you could catch them going in the water or something maybe, but um at least you have a better direction of travel. And um in Wisconsin too, like that's like right at the time when the beans are starting to turn Uh, uh, but you'll still have some little areas where, say, you have, you know, 500 acres of beans like in the vicinity. All of a sudden, that's like dwindled down to 40 acres of beans because maybe just the stuff that faces north or it gets, it's shaded most of the day or it's in
Yeah.
a real low spot in the field that will stay green. And so you can like focus on those, which I don't think I've ever hunted on the edge of a bean field, but I don't know why I'm giving pointers on that. But um, at least it's easier to, if that's where they're going to end up at night, at least you have a better idea of, how to get one killed. A lot of times I do like way too much and the deer are they're like I'll complicate things in the early season and I don't think that's the way to do it because the movement is so short and you just have to like capitalize on a first time hunt with like good weather and being like a simple setup. If you go barging in there and just it's thicker than hell back in there and I have some plan in my head and I mean, sometimes you just have to weigh the odds. Like, what are the odds of me pulling this off? Or, like, sometimes you just have to simplify it.
So when you say overcomplicate it, you have a tendency to overcomplicate it. You mean putting a stand on your back and going as far balls deep into his bedroom as you can possibly get?
Yeah, a lot of times I realize, like, especially when I really started getting into hunting public land, I like would realize that I was going right past that buck, or like I would come out and he'd be like out in the, like I was way past him, and a lot of times I'm like following the buck sign in there, like the new, there's like the brand new rubs and everything,
Yeah.
and I just keep, I'm like, I know I can, I'm getting closer or whatever, and I'm like, man, once I'm past it, it's too late now. Like I'm like, man, I should have set up in that spot, and I just like kick myself, and um, but yeah, a lot of times I overcomplicate things with access, where I have something dreamed up in my head on how this is all going to work out, and then you get into some of that stuff, and you're like, man, there's no way I can make this. Like if the assumptions that I have, like before every hunt, I have like I assume where this buck is going to be and where those are going to be, and like what's going to happen, and sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right, but like if I'm assuming that buck is like on that point right there, there's no way he's not gonna bust me when I, have to go this last 50 yards or whatever. And so sometimes you just have to weigh the odds and be like, well, there's also a chance if I set up here, at least he's not gonna know I'm there, and there's a chance I could get that buck killed. And there's
Yeah.
probably no chance if I like go that 50 extra yards that I want to go. So
What's the work that you put in to give you the ingredients to make that assumption? Like, what are you doing before season, leading up to that moment? Let's call it your first sit in an area. Like, what are the ingredients to make your assumption pie? Like, you say, I'm assuming there's doe right there. I'm assuming he's bedded on this point. Like, what have you done? What have you done to set yourself up to make those assumptions?
yeah, I started doing that a little bit more now, where I actually will I I've maybe I've run cameras in a spot for a few years, or I'm very familiar with the property, and I like do like a really detailed scout on the several different spots where this buck is likely bedding or traveling or whatever. And I have these are when I have like the best hunts where it's like I'm going to get this deer killed, and it's a coin flip if I kill him or not. Like I feel so confident when I have a tree picked, or sometimes I'll have like 3 4 trees picked, and like on my Onyx in my notes I'll have detailed, like sometimes it'll be like a huge freaking paragraph of everything that I need to do, because I have so many spots like this where I'll forget, or sometimes it'll be like 4 or 5 years,
Mm,
and then finally there's a big buck there and he's using like this area, and I won't remember exactly where that tree is and like how high, like it'll be say 3 sticks high, face to the northeast, and it'll be like it'll and sometimes I will not follow my notes, and it cost me a really big deer in the marsh where it said my notes said hang 2 sticks high. If and then it said if you go higher, he will bust you. And I went 3 sticks high, and I put my stand on the tree, and the buck that I was in there or he stood up out of his bed at like 100 yards and looked right at me in the freaking tree, and I was like, oh my god. But so yeah, a lot of times I did it a lot this year in Wisconsin where I have like such detailed notes on how to access, and I'll actually like do the whole access route
Like
all the way
you'll do a
all
dry
the way to the
run.
tree.
You'll do a dry run on it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have when I hung a camera on that property this year, and I went exactly the way that I would in the early season, and because where I expect one of these 2 bucks to be bedded is going to be probably like 75 yards from my tree, but I can pretty much get right into that tree like totally undetected if I can be quiet or just beat them in there. So, but yeah, and in the hills though, a lot of it just has to do with the thermals, and um, like being early isn't always like a good thing, which I'm not good at being early anyways. But like you almost want to get there almost at the same time as he's going to be there because he's scent checking everything like as he's going to bed or whatever. So I mean, if you're sitting in a tree like an hour and a half before the sun comes up, a lot of times he's going to crack you. But it is really hard to beat a buck to bed, anyways. I mean, the scenarios are so rare where in the hills um, where you can pull that off. But if you can, I think that's super cool. But
And are you saying it's scent related that the reason it's so difficult?
yeah, it's so easy for them to make sure everything is safe. It took me a few years of just like learning and understanding what what these giant bucks do, and all of a sudden it just started like clicking, and the more and more I saw things and started to understand what they're actually doing. Like trail cameras can be so deceiving, and they can really throw you off if you don't understand what they're doing, and it did that to me, where I would get pictures of this. It's the one of the first years I think I started hunting in the hills. I had like a mega buck on camera, and I would get pictures of them all the time. Probably like a 180s buck, and I was so confused. Like I would get his picture, maybe half hour to like an hour before first light, like going. He was coming out of this big ditch, and he was heading into like there's a cornfield right there. I'm like, well, maybe he's got to be bedding in the corn, or I have no idea why he's going out that way. And then like the corn was like picked, he was still doing that. I'm like, well, I have no idea where he's going. There's hundreds of acres of wide open nothingness over there.
Yeah.
And then everything clicked where he was, and then I had, I got his picture heading that direction, like out into that open field. And then I jumped him the same day on a point where he had just come from. And I'm like, oh, he would, all like the betting points, he would walk below them all and like do a big circle. And basically the thermals are just dropping right on top of his head. And he's just, no, not a care in the world. He just smelled everything that was on every single point, wants to know what deer are there, if there's any danger, if there's coyotes up there, whatever. He can smell everything. And then he just keeps following the ditch up into the ditch head. And then he just loops right around on the top and goes and beds down on whichever point he's going to bed down on. And
So it just
so he already
appeared.
knows.
It only appeared to you that he was going out in the picked corn, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
if you were in that scenario, like if you were to be in there really early, he would crack you up there. He would smell you. If somehow you could pull it off where, he walks by below all those points, and then it's probably like an hour until he actually loops around up on top. Maybe he feeds a little bit. There's like alfalfa fields up on top. Um, and then he, walks right into his bed with the wind at his back. And so he can, once he's up on the top, like on the top third on one of those points, there's a small window where he's really at a disadvantage because the thermals are falling. He can't really, he can smell with the wind, coming over his back. But other than that, if you were to set up when he had already like gone through there, you'd have to get real lucky with that. But that's like a scenario where he could just like walk right into your lap and you could get him
Wow.
killed. But it's just so you're really splitting hairs with that kind of stuff. So
And how did you? So you said you jumped him. So you
I
jumped
jumped it
him one day,
a bunch of times actually.
and then just kind of like put it together. You're like, oh shit. Did you end up harvesting that deer or no?
No,
No.
it was like it bothers me. So some of my like really good friends, two of my really good friends, I met hunting that place. And they had gotten like an SD card stolen out of a camera or something. The first time I had ever been there, I come back to my truck and they're like waiting for me at my truck, and they're like all pissed off. And then they realized like, oh, this isn't the guy that
Yeah.
did it or whatever. And now we're like such good friends. And so they were hunting the same deer, and he just like totally disappeared, fell off the map. I have no idea what happened to him, but the deer taught me a lot. I wish this would have happened at like a time where I was more experienced hunting in the hills, because I didn't know what I was doing, but I was super aggressive and I think I did everything, you know, correct. Just I got so close a few times. But I remember like Andre DeQuisto saying like, if you don't, because I didn't know the property at all. I had been out there once and I put a camera there and I got this buck's picture. So I remember him saying like, if you don't have the information, you just have to go get it. So I just was gonna, walk on a crosswind across all these bedding points until I jumped that deer, and hopefully I could actually see him. And I jumped him the first time
No
I was
shit.
I was there, and then yeah, it was just a wild ride. I also jumped him out of his bed at like, I don't know, 5 steps away from me. Like it was so sweet. But I jumped him twice in one day. He was just driving me up the wall. It was just the biggest deer I'd ever seen. So
Yeah.
it was crazy. But he taught me a lot about, you know, a lot of times they are betting in like not the typical place. Like it's just everything is wind, or what they can smell. And he just was so comfortable in this area. It was like a big bowl with a whole bunch of points, and he he could basically just close his eyes and go. He had not a care in the world because it was so hard to get close to him.
There's a place that I had been hunting in northern Illinois, and I found some success there, but there was another really good deer in there, and come to find out,
I think you told me about that, or wasn't it? Or you sent me some pictures of some big deer there.
I might have, yeah. There's another kid who knows about that deer, and I've tried to get him to come on, and he will not come on here and talk about that deer until the chapter is closed on it. I was like, listen, man, I killed a really nice deer in there. That deer's all yours, man. Have at it. I'm not gonna go back. But I think a lot about that deer that's still alive, that I have one of his sheds right here in my office. That deer is a fucking giant. And I think a lot about how I hunted him last year, and that kid hunted the shit out of him, and there were other people in there. And I try to listen to what you just talked about, and kind of like paint it in my brain about what that property looks like. And I realize we would almost have to get lucky. That deer in that area is so set up for his survival based on what you just explained and the terrain and everything else that's going on. It's going to be so fucking hard to kill that deer unless you catch him chasing pussy.
Yeah. And it's like when he smells you or sees you or hears you or whatever from at a comfortable distance, that's what he wants, and that's what shores up his area. Like, okay, I'm in a good spot. It's he's not getting pressured to the point where he's like, when you scare the living daylights out of him, and like something happens that he totally was not expecting or set up for, like that's like a time where it he might be back, but it might be a while, and he's gonna be so edgy after
Oh yeah.
that. But yeah, if like in Iowa, there's so many deer and so many big bucks where if you're hunting, there's a lot of guys that I ran into that were struggling and stuff. And some of these places, there's just so many big deer. So if you're hunting like late October and you are in a great spot and you just don't, you're not seeing any big bucks, you have to totally just change what you're doing, because it's not the deer, it's probably your access, or they know that you're there one
Yeah.
way or the other. They smelled you, saw you, whatever. Because if you're not, they're there, and if you're not seeing them, maybe if you're hunting like the big woods in Wisconsin, like, oh, maybe he just didn't come through here, he's not, he wasn't betting over here this week or whatever. But when you're in a spot like that, you're doing something wrong.
Let me ask you this. I've fallen in love with Kansas, and I went 1 year by myself. I went another year with my brother. I'm going this year again with my brother. And the first year I was there, I today would say to you, if I sat on this one little point on this dry river creek bottom,
Uh-huh.
if I would have sat there every day for an entire week, I would have shot a deer. But what I was doing was I was being overly mobile, and I was trying to find them first. And I think what I realize is that it's so vast,
Yeah.
and there's maybe a hayfield, and then maybe some Milo down the road, and then maybe the beans are picked there. That it's so vast that they're almost their rotation.
Yeah.
They're just general rotation through the area. People don't give it enough time to play out.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about that in an area
I,
like
I have
Iowa?
a hard time with doing that, but um, yeah, I mean, I have so many times I think that where I'm like, man, I don't know if I have the patience to do it, or I don't really know if sometimes it's just about the experience too. But
100%.
if that's like your only goal is like, especially if it's just like one deer that you're hunting and you like know there is for sure one spot that if I can sit it out, like the access is really good, and he's never gonna, it's bulletproof. He's not gonna cut my ground scent, and I can, hunt it 4 days in a row. And he's gonna come through here one of those days. Um, I mean, it's a good way to get one of those bucks killed, but I just don't. I don't know. Maybe
Still
I'll
got
start
it in
doing.
you?
There was a few times where I will hunt like the same area where I'm like sometimes I'll move like 80 yards or and then hunt again the next day. I did that several times in Iowa during the rut where I was like just fine tuning my setup, or something didn't work, or the wind was going to be a little different, and I would just kind of move trees. But um yeah, if you have a spot where especially like, yeah, like you said in Kansas, um, where it's, you just need the time, or
Yeah.
like in Pennsylvania or something where there's, maybe you don't have the high deer numbers, but you're just, taking shots in the dark, but you have like a couple spots that um, sometimes you just have to sit it out.
Yeah, I like that. Do you put a lot of stock into, so for example, my brother and I have talked at length. We're not going to do it. We're just going to go out like 2 days before season this year to Kansas, but like, do you put a lot of stock in, let's say, an August scouting trip? I'm choosing August because it's late enough in the summer where the corn's going to be super tall, the beans should be full. You put a lot of stock into like a preseason scouting trip to one of those destination places like Iowa and Kansas. Or do you think it's too late in the season to be doing that?
Oh, to like if you're actually like like glassing deer and stuff like that, I don't
Yeah.
really. I mean, I think it's like a 50-50 that those bucks are going to be like the bucks that you're seeing are going to stay there. Like that's, within their home range. And, the other half of the bucks, maybe they'll be at one property or, maybe 3-4 miles away. But, um, so you can't really, I don't get too crazy about it because, you see some giant buck and you're go nuts about it, and then you realize he's not even remotely close to being in the area come fall. But
That's a weird thing. It's a weird time where you're like close enough where you get it really excited, but so far away that they can make such a dramatic shift.
yeah,
Almost not. It's just
yeah. I mean, that's what I was doing last year in Iowa. And um which, like, one of the places there was just so many giant deer in velvet out on this place. I actually was out there, drove by there a few weeks ago, and same thing, like huge bachelor group out there. And I'm like, well, I mean, there's no way all these giant bucks can stay on this property.
you're
There's
right.
they all got to disperse. Well, like come fall, they were almost all of them stayed there.
Holy shit.
I mean, some of them were maybe on the neighbors here and there, but for the most part, like all those bucks that I saw in velvet, like I would get pictures of them throughout the fall. I'm like, this is crazy. And it was such a hard place to hunt. I don't know. I hunted it a handful of times. I guess I did see a few big bucks there, but just knowing that there's like 1,550 inches here. Like it's just crazy. Like, dude, I should be seeing these things all over the place. Like,
Yeah.
where the hell are they?
It's funny. I mentioned earlier I wanted to circle back to leases. And so I want to do that now. Like, I have written down here, where are we going as an industry? We've got, myself included, every asshole's got a podcast. It's super easy to start a YouTube channel. It's you got cell cams and SD cards. You got 360-degree cameras. You got live action cameras. You got people buying up gigantic chunks of ground for leases. LiDAR, like just the most insane mapping software anybody could ever fathom.
Yeah.
Are we hurting ourselves or are we helping ourselves?
It's so funny that you're bringing this up because I was just like the whole drive home from work. I don't know why, but I was just having all these thoughts where I think it's all um, you have to have like goals and what you really like want to get out of hunting. Like if you're hunting for some other reason, I mean, I have my own goals and I have my own ethics, I guess, where I would like draw the line, but I'm not gonna like throw shade on someone that's if it's legal, I don't like agree. I would never use a crossbow or do any of these things, but um I don't really care. I see a lot of guys like hating on these like the big name like the Drurys or Lakoskis or they're shooting all these big bucks on their um like managed farms in Iowa and stuff like. Well, then, I mean, you could do that too. You just have to. I'm sure they work super hard, like to get to where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
Who cares? Just don't let that bother you. Like, obviously, you're not in the same scenario that they are. Like, you're not going to be, consistently finding bucks like that. It's unrealistic. Um, but yeah, there a lot of times people like reach out to me and they're like, "Oh, dude, did you see this camera or whatever?" And I'm like. I that's cool. I have zero interest in that. Like because I mean, why I'm hunting is for me. Like I just love the challenge and getting close and chasing around like a big buck. But and I remember like guys talking about, like when Ozonics was like really big and stuff. And um yeah, you could totally be undetected if they come out with this or that. I'm like, I don't, if they did come out with something like that totally eliminated your like scent, like you could just like walk up to a deer, like basically, like if you knew where a deer was bedding, like I don't think I would use it because then it wouldn't be, I mean, it's so unfair. I think yeah, some of the technology is getting crazy. Even I run a ton of cameras and I have cell cameras and stuff, and I never want to be the guy that's like killing a buck just because of like what a cell cam told me to do, or which I typically don't run cameras like where I'm hunting anyways. But like for like on a food plot, for example, like say you lived like you were at your cabin or whatever, and then you're like, oh, that buck he just walked out of the food plot, and then you sneak back there and you climb up in the tree and he walks back out and you shoot him. Like, I don't know, that's not for me. But if you want to do that, that's up to you, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's so we have this issue in Michigan where there's fuck, it's probably lots of places, but where everyone's blaming the DNR for our deer herd and our buck population here. Everybody's blaming the DNR. And the reality is it is a human being problem.
Yeah.
Nobody can control themselves when an antler gets in front of them. It's a human being problem. It's not the DNR. It's that humans can't self-regulate.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, when you're given all of these things, it's honestly, it's up to us to use our best common sense. But like you said, if that makes you happy and
Yeah.
you're out there, then you should do that. But the idea that we should be, we it's up to people who care to kind of educate people, to encourage people to grow as hunters. Because similarly, I love the challenge. I love going somewhere new. I love, like, I have two leases. I have a little lease in Southern Ohio and I have a little lease in Southern Illinois. But I also will scout all the public around there.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, fuck, I could have saved a bunch of money if I would have just hunted public. There's giant deer out here on camera. Like, I know
It
there's
is
giant
cool
deer.
to have that where you have like a spot where you know who's been there and who has, and you can do like fun stuff, and
Yeah.
you don't have the worry of like something getting stolen. You can, especially like if you have kids or you get off of work at 3:30, and then it's a spot where you can just go hunt and be up in a tree or whatever. It's at least is great for stuff like that.
Yeah, hopefully I can I really like them both. I honestly, it was throwing a dart, dude, and I lucked out. I'm not gonna lie. I got two great leases. One of these days, my son might want to hunt with me, and it'd be a really cool thing to take him out there. But like you said, the challenge and what I've learned by challenging myself, I think it's incumbent upon us as hunters to teach other people, like, hey, see if you can do this without your trail
Yeah.
camera, or see if you can do this without all the gimmicky stuff, because it's
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun to do it, man. Like, and that I'm not telling you anything you didn't already know.
Yeah, and circling back to what you were saying, like with the big buck culture or whatever, like it's so hard to get. Um, I think everyone should just have their, if you have an exciting hunt, or if when I was hunting in the big woods, like if I saw a deer, like that was crazy. And look, so like anything with an antler, I was definitely gonna shoot. When I grew up gun hunting up there. Um, So like I'm all about like whatever trips your trigger, I guess. But people that have their that are diehard hunters and stuff, and they have like their 100 acre family farm or whatever, and then it's always you're struggling with what the neighbors are shooting, and there's so much like bickering about oh, you shot another good 2-year old or 3-year old or whatever. And then they get or it's just so bent out of shape about it, that these deer aren't surviving, and it's just such a never-ending saga, and it's hard to you can't control. that stuff. And that's what's so cool about public, is because there's just like that stuff doesn't like mean a whole lot to you. Yeah, it sucks when one of your big bucks gets killed that you were after, but there's I have so many other big deer that I could, or other properties and places I can go, and you're not tied down to your, and you're not worrying about that stuff really.
Right.
So I mean,
Yeah.
you
I
can
don't
only
know.
control what you can control. So
Right. Yeah. And you mentioned that the guy sold the property that your lease was at.
yeah,
Do you ever, do you think you would be where you're at today if that lease was still in
no,
as an option?
no, no, definitely not. I mean, you get so much better at hunting when you're putting yourself in just tons of different scenarios, tons of properties, different places, even like different species. Like if you were to go out
Yeah.
to Montana or what, I mean, well, I guess some people do that, but don't really learn anything. You'll learn if you are always asking like why, or why did that happen, or what is actually going on. Um, and, like paying attention. Um, but yeah, I definitely would not be nearly the hunter that I am now if I hadn't started hunting public, and just so many different challenges. And aside from being on private, which I actually enjoy, sometimes it's really frustrating. You'll have something just get blown up from another guy or something, and you're like, man, I cannot believe this sucks. But that's all part of it, I guess.
You mean on public?
Yeah, and it's like a
Yeah.
learning like if you have like some killer day where maybe like some awesome weather, or let's like November 7th, and you have several different spots that you could hunt, and one is probably the best out of all those spots, but that spot there's a lot of people hunting on that day. There's a chance everything gets just blown up there. I would rather hunt, I'm picking, that's what's so different about private and public. There's so many more things to weigh, um, with other people involved. So you have to take into account, like, what are the odds that this sit is actually like a clean hunt where,
Yeah.
it's going to get destroyed.
And sometimes even with your best efforts, it gets ruined.
Yeah.
I went through the effort of getting private access to the backside of this public ground and last year, and I found this incredible spot I never stepped foot in before. I'm like, holy shit, I'm sitting here in the morning, and fucking 20 minutes before sunup, here comes a light, and I'm like, what the hell? Where the hell did this guy come from? And that's just like I got in clean. I went through the effort of finding that perfect access.
Yeah.
Somebody also knew that spot was there.
I've been through that so many times. And in Wisconsin, I have gone to like some crazy, like the most remote, crazy places like I could find when I'm scouting or hunting or whatever. And in Wisconsin, I swear, like if you can pick a spot like that on the map and you'll go like right to that like remote island out in the middle of like some shit, and they'll be like, you'll see like some screw in tree pegs or something. You're like,
Yeah.
dude, every time. And it's like I realized like now you're better off finding spots that are like, somewhere where just no one would ever go like at all. Maybe it's a lot of times it's like paralleling a road, like where there's parking lot that are, and there's a mile in between those parking lots, and people are just going out into the public, but like no one just takes a right turn and just walks straight along like the
Yeah.
road. So many good spots like that.
Yeah. Michigan's the same way. I've definitely gone pretty far out in some Michigan stuff and gotten right where I wanted to be, and I'm like, oh, there's a camera right there. Hello, camera.
Yeah. I
Busted.
think Michigan, Wisconsin, and I mean and Pennsylvania and New
Yeah.
York and stuff. Like, I mean, there's people don't understand when they talk about like pressure. Like even in when I was in Iowa, I mean, people are like, oh, there's a lot of guys hunting out here. I'm like, dude, no, there's
You have
not.
no idea.
Yeah, it's nothing.
So I was listening to one of my other favorite podcasts recently, and there was a guy talking on there, and he's super analytical, and he and this is not what I'm about to say is not a knock at him at all, and I'm not going to say who it was and whatever, but he's super analytical, almost sounds like a robot when he talks about how he hunts deer.
Yeah.
And I know that that probably brings him joy, but it gave me anxiety listening to it. Like,
Yeah.
the, do you feel like you're so analytical that you lose a little fun sometimes? And that don't take
Yeah.
it the wrong way. Yeah.
Sometimes, and the older I get, the more the experience like means more to me.
Yeah.
Where and I've definitely like changed like every year, like as a hunter, like what's um important to me, and I love like just finding big deer and like chasing a big deer. Um, and people can get they get annoyed when they're hearing like numbers and stuff, but that's just, if you do that for a long time, that just like becomes part of it where you don't even
Right.
really realize that. um but yeah, it's all like what you want your experience to be, and what your like goals are and stuff. So if you're crazy about hunting and you like to break down all the data like that, and you're not even, you know you don't even really care that much if you do harvest that big buck or whatever, and you just like doing that, then more power to you. Like, do it for, if you enjoy doing it that way, do it like that. But um
But that's not you. Sometimes it's you.
no, but sometimes I will just get so wrapped up in especially like hunting one buck, or um on a place that I don't even want to be, but there's like some giant deer there, and then I'm after the season or like a month and a half into it, and I'm not even sure if the deer is there, and I'm like, man, what am I doing here? Like, I'm not even having a good time now.
Oh,
Like,
that sucks.
sometimes that's what it takes to kill a deer like that. But
Right.
um and there were some places that I said that about in Iowa too, where I wanted to make sure I didn't do that. I wanted to go a lot of different places, but there was a few properties where, almost every property I had like a picture of a 165 or plus deer. Like, there's so many big deer there, and then there was like one place that so many big bucks that were, but the biggest was maybe 150, and I ran cameras all over that place, and it was like a beautiful property, and I kept saying like, man, that would be like probably the most fun place to hunt,
Mm.
because there's so many good deer, so many 130 to 140 bucks. Like, it would be a blast. Um, and I kind of wish like I never hunted that place, but sometimes it's just fun to experience all that, especially when Iowa's a different animal where you don't get to see stuff like that at home all the time. So
I have a tendency now as I'm older to kind of look back at those. Fuck, I've been to Kansas twice and I haven't brought anything home, but I've loved every minute. I absolutely love going out there, and that's
yeah,
even though those have been failures, I've learned so much. Those were two completely different areas, and this year's going to be an even different area. Um, it just that's all part of it, and that's
yeah,
part of
I
what I
definitely
love.
wouldn't call that like a failure, because
No,
like if I'm gonna go somewhere like out of state or whatever, especially if I had already shot a deer at home, I totally fine with not shooting anything, or just going and like experiencing something different. Like, Kansas is just so different than you know this
yeah,
area.
oh yeah,
Or like, if you were to, I was talking to Skylar Summers the other day. I don't know if you know who that is, but
mm.
he's going out to Montana elk hunting. He's like, yeah, hopefully, I really hope I can get one killed. I'm like, man, if I was going to Montana, I would be so fine with not killing an elk, because I would just have such a great time with the whole experience of it.
Yeah,
Like, this, going somewhere different and seeing something new. And if you get one, it's just a bonus. I mean, but you don't want to ruin your, trip where you're just gonna bang your head against the wall if you don't get one killed. Which I probably, if I didn't get one killed in Iowa, I would have lost my mind. But I'm glad it didn't end up that way. But
Yeah, I think what ends up happening is you start getting a little frantic and you start
pressure.
making some poor decisions because there's a ticking clock.
Yeah,
This trip is over and the clock is ticking and my wife is ready for me to come home or whatever,
yeah,
girlfriend, wife, kids, whatever. And it's like you're up against that to begin with. And then if you have this added pressure of I've got to bring something home,
yeah.
you're going to start making some bad decisions. I've done it. And
Yeah, and especially if you care what other people. I used to, like, when I was really getting crazy about it, and I felt like I was, becoming like a lot better hunter. But it takes a lot to kill a big mature buck and do it
yeah,
consistently. Like I put so much pressure on myself, and I cared more about like what other people thought. Sometimes,
yeah.
I think that's a lot of new or younger hunters do that. Like, you know, oh, I gotta get a big buck killed. You see all these other guys like killing big bucks now. Like I could care less what people think of what I kill or not. Like I don't put that pressure on myself because of that. Like um, I have a lot of confidence though. Like now where I know. I don't know. I hate to say it like that, but I just know I'm going to get a good one killed. It's just a matter of time, or I'm going to screw it up. I'm going to have the opportunity to get one killed.
I think that's a maturity thing. I mean, listen, we're getting older, man. We're
Yeah,
maturing, whether you want to admit it or not. We're maturing.
yeah, yeah. No doubt about that. You
um,
just got to pick what makes
yeah.
you do it, and then just enjoy it. Like, just if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, it's not going to be fulfilling.
One thing I told myself is, for God's sakes, I get a fucking doe tag in Kansas. I get a doe tag in Illinois. I just got my Ohio tags today. I bought a doe tag in Ohio. If I got to kill something, shoot a doe.
Yeah.
Bring a damn doe
Do you
home.
see a lot of deer when you go, or when you hunted in Kansas, or was there not high deer numbers there?
Um, the first year I did not see a ton of deer until the very last like 48 hours. I saw a ton of deer. And again, that was when I started to realize I think they're just on a super long rotation because they were picking beans, and this is before I realized that they would eat the Milo. They were in the freaking Milo. And I would
Mhm.
walk right past it to go sit over by the picked bean side, there's fresh sign everywhere. I just
Um,
Anyway, no on the first year, low deer numbers, good bucks. Second time I went, I saw way more deer, but I was in a way better area,
uh-huh.
southeast Kansas. We saw lots of deer, and I definitely could have shot doe. Um, I was waiting, and for what? I could have just shoot a doe and skin it
Yeah.
out, put it in the freezer, man.
Yeah, you need a little bit of luck on your side when you go to a brand
Yeah,
new place. I mean, too, is
yeah.
you don't know what to expect.
Well, what are you doing these days when you think about? I know we just talked about how a good deer makes you happy. Like you're not trying to please anybody but what Tony wants to do.
Yeah.
How do you evaluate your goals from year to year to year, or do they not change?
I guess they change. I'm all like the last few year. I every year I have Boone and Crockett on my mind. Like that's so hard to do. It's so rare to even find one. Um, and I usually will find a few, and then that kind of dwindles down, or maybe they you know are on private sometimes or whatever. But that's kind of like my goal, and it's unrealistic, but um, I will shoot like something that makes me if I get pumped up. But it's also fun. Like it's hard for me to let a buck walk like a 140 buck walk is super tough. But if it's like a cool hunt and 130 runs underneath me, I don't really care that it's 130 inches or whatever. If I want to shoot it, I'm gonna shoot it. But but yeah, if your goal is to shoot a 170 and you have like you feel like you have a realistic chance of getting a buck like that killed, you're never going to shoot a 170 if you do shoot that 130 though. Um, so yeah, hopefully I can find one this year um, and or get to hunt a buck somewhere in that caliber. That's be pretty sweet.
Listen, I'm going to tell you right now. I have been trying to figure out if you are bullshitting me or if you have a good poker face or not. Do you have one that you got in mind right now?
Um, Not well. I mean, I don't have much for cameras out right now, which
Okay.
I'm gonna do a lot of that this weekend. Um, and I mean, I hunted a good amount in Wisconsin after I had my or filled my Iowa tag, and I did run cameras in Wisconsin, and I had several. Some of the biggest deer I had on camera all of last year, including in Iowa and everything, were in Wisconsin.
Wow.
Um, so I know that there's a good chance I can get on something really big. And I have a few, I did some like detailed scouts and setups and everything for like those situations if those deer are alive and everything. So hopefully, um, it'd be pretty cool. So yeah, I guess we'll see. I'm excited. I also have a property that I'd been hunting in an area for like 4 or 5 years or whatever, and I hadn't I kind of stumbled upon a piece of public that I had no idea was public, and I don't really
Hmm.
think if I don't really know if anyone knows about it. It's like the weirdest,
I'll be
craziest
damned.
scenario, and I know for sure it is public. I am so excited to run cameras in there and see what's in that place. So
That's awesome.
there's probably gonna be like 50 guys hunting in there when I when I go in there. But
There might be so of all the 11 people that will listen to this, 10 of them are going to go fuck. Who knows where it's at?
yeah,
No, there, but maybe that will happen. I don't know. So okay, so maybe you weren't poker facing me. Maybe you just don't know yet, since you aren't running all your cameras yet. I thought
no,
maybe
I
you were
don't
being
know yet, but
coy.
I'm pretty confident that most of those deer. I ran cameras pretty late in the year, and a lot of those deer I know were alive, like as they were shedding antlers. So most likely, there's some real good ones. So.
Do you see a lot of out of state guys coming to Wisconsin to hunt?
Not really, but it's becoming more of a thing, especially like in western Wisconsin. And you'll in western Wisconsin, you'll have a lot of Minnesota guys that will go there
Yeah.
because their gun season is like that first week in November. And if you don't want to be out there during gun season, it's right during the rut. So if you're a diehard bow hunter, you just go across to Wisconsin. But yeah, there's like the place where I was talking about where I was jumping that giant buck during the rut there for the last 4 years or whatever. There'll be a whole bunch of like Florida,
Hmm.
Tennessee, all sorts of different. They go there every single year together, so
I'll be damned.
kind of sucks, but
I was curious because I was doing some work in Illinois a lot, and I in one year I thought, you know what, I'm gonna buy my Wisconsin tag and go up there, and I couldn't get away from work enough. I did one morning sit, and work needed. I said fuck it, and I didn't go back. So it's close enough where Wisconsin would make sense to me, but if it's something where it's a shit show because there's so many people,
yeah,
I don't know, maybe in the future.
yeah. So you're right. You're down in southern Michigan, huh?
I'm an hour north of Detroit,
Oh, okay.
so it's not
So
bad.
it's actually not a bad. I mean, you can actually get to quite a few different places, like within
Yeah,
reason from you.
yeah. One of these days, I'll make it out there. Um, the last thing I had to ask you about, and because this, I could be wrong about this, and if I am, forgive me. Are you the guy that scouts at night?
Yeah, I do that all the time.
I couldn't remember if that was you or
I
not.
like doing I would do everything. I love doing stuff at night. Like I trap at night, and I'm doing a little bit less of that stuff now, but it's just people are always asking me about that and like talking I don't know, I just don't think it's weird at all. Like I have during the season I almost never I don't know if I ever check a trail camera like during the daytime. I'm just like, especially because I travel to go hunt, so I will stay. I have like my back of my truck all set up with like my bed and everything. So
Hmm.
it's like 6 o'clock or whatever. Like it's dark, and I got nothing else to do. Like
Right.
I just go do all my scouting, and I feel like the deer don't mind you nearly as much as like a lot of times they're on their feet or they're up feeding or they're out in the field or if you jump them out of like their bedding area, it means a lot more than if you were to they see a light going through the woods, they like don't even pay any attention to it really. But
Your
uh,
your philosophy on it makes a lot of sense to me. I've never tried it. I'm not opposed to it. I have heard people, maybe not so kind or fond of it, but it makes a ton of sense to me that if you jump them when they know damn well this is not normal, it's not a big deal because it's not normal. It would
yeah,
make sense to me that they could get past it easier than a broad daylight bump.
yeah.
It totally makes sense to me. Did so? I know you just used the example like if I'm traveling and it gets dark at 6 o'clock, which drives me nuts. Like I got nothing else to do. Is that how it started, or were you just trying something different and you enjoyed it?
I don't know. I like doing stuff at night. I like the super peace and quiet, like how the woods is at night. And I was I went to Scout Sniper School when I was in the Marine Corps, and you become like really good at and you learn to do everything in the dark, like under you're sneaking around and you're just everything is and
Now you sound like a damn pervert.
yeah, slinking through the grass and but yeah, you just almost like kind of learn to love doing everything, at nighttime. And I guess that just kind of stuck with me. Um and then like trapping, I would a lot of time like I have a long trap line and you want to be able to just drive by and check like a coyote. You can catch a coyote right next to a road and no one will ever see that coyote because that coyote will lay down or hide, and
Mm.
it's not going to let a car see him, but you'll see him because you know where your stuff is. So a lot of times if you want to set like snares, you can't be like, I don't want to be hammering in stakes, 50 feet off the road with cars driving by. So I'd always be doing stuff at nighttime. And
Okay.
I just love that. So,
Are you? Is it still legal to shine in Wisconsin?
yeah, there's rules and stuff with once you get into the season, I think it's like maybe 9 or 10 o'clock. You can't shine after that, I think. And then you can't shine during gun season, but it's like a big thing. Like if
Oh
you
yeah.
go out like around these marshes and stuff around here, you'll definitely see a couple of guys out shining.
God, I remember when I was like 21 because we would be on the way home from I'd be on my way home from the bar. I had a spotlight that I kept in my truck, and every time I'd turn onto my road, there was a pond, and I'd shine that bitch every single night, and there'd be 50 fucking deer around that pond every night. And that
Yeah.
we can't shine here anymore. And honestly, I don't know if we could shine back then, 20 some years ago, but I do kind of miss that. Like
It's fun
it's
to
a lot
do.
of fun with your buddies and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually smoked a huge buck in my pickup. It was in
Hmm.
August, like maybe 4 years ago. But I would always want to shine out my driver's window, and then I'd have my camera, my video camera, like on the window, so it was hard to film or whatever out the passenger window.
Yeah.
So it was like a really bright night, and I knew this field was going to be full of deer, and I could see like the silhouettes of like a whole bunch of huge bucks out in this bean field. And if you slow down at all, they get all weirded out and they will like bounce out of that field. So I'm like, I can see them all. I'm just gonna stay going like 65, blow right by the field. Then I'm gonna turn around and I'll come back and I can actually film them. Well, it's like standing corn alongside of me on my other side, and this freaking slob of a buck just came right out of the corn, and he dove his antlers right into my grill, and I just smoked him. I'm like, oh my god, I felt so bad.
Oh no.
Yeah, it sucked. I'm like,
You
man,
broke some broken hearts. You broke
yeah.
somebody's heart with that one. Somebody, that deer just never showed up on somebody's trail camera ever again.
I actually got a picture of that deer like the day prior to it, and I was like, oh my god, now I hit him.
So we had this giant buck. I say giant. In our place, it was probably 150 something, maybe 150s.
Mhm.
I had him on camera one morning right before season, and then he disappeared. And then one night after that farmer picked the corn, I could see him out there with a loader picking up a deer out of that corn.
Oh man.
My bet, I would bet anything, because I've still never seen that. This is 2 or 3 years ago, that deer was right along a road. That deer got hit by a car and died in the corn,
Hmm.
never to be seen again. Probably one of the biggest deer we ever had on our property. God.
It sucks because they just take so long. It's so hard for them to survive all this
Yeah.
stuff. They got to survive, and then sometimes I can't believe that they,
Yeah.
get hit by cars. Like, I don't know, so weird that they have all these good instincts, but they'll run right in front of your pickup.
Yeah. Oh, Tony, I enjoyed talking to you tonight. I enjoyed
Yes.
getting to know you and meet you. Thank you for sharing some insight to your life and your adventures. Where can people, if you want people to follow along, where can people follow along with you?
Well,
If you don't,
I got an Instagram, which is how we started talking. It's Tony VA3. It's my Instagram. I also have a YouTube channel. I pretty much just put shed hunting stuff on there or some trapping stuff. It's I think it's just Tony Van Asten is my YouTube. But yeah, that's pretty much
I don't
it.
think I knew that. I had to write that one down. I
I
didn't.
think I think it's my full name is I
I'll
guess
look.
I
I'll look it up and I'll put it in the links for everybody to click on and follow along. I
yeah.
appreciate it. You are a great follow. I enjoy your accent, whether you want to admit you have one or not.
Sure, okay.
There's a couple accents that you could tell me whatever the hell you want in the deer woods and I'll listen. Well, so I almost said Youper. You're not a Youper, but you have a Wisconsin accent.
Yeah.
And then do you know who Daniel Lemon is?
No.
He's part of, I think it's do it yourself hunting. I think
Oh.
he's like Mississippi maybe.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, I didn't know that was his name. Dude, that guy is awesome.
His fucking accent and your accent. You guys could tell me anything and I will believe you in the deer woods. So use that to your advantage. I appreciate it. It was great talking to you, man.
You too.
Thanks everybody for listening, and we will talk to you all soon.